before the first sun had risen, before the first lotus bloomed upon the waters of the Nile. The world was nothing but sand and silence. The sky lay dead, and the earth knew neither life nor death. And in that vast emptiness, two breaths were born: light and shadow. Light became Ra, the god whose gaze set the stars ablaze. Shadow became Set, the storm without limit. They walked side by side, yet Set's heart burned with envy. For light revealed, but shadow only concealed. To bind the chaos, Ra shaped Osiris, the voice of order, the bringer of harvest and peace. At his side stood Isis, wise and gentle, whose heart could still even the flow of time. Together, their love became the foundation of the world. But Set could not endure it. His storm rose against his brother. On a night when the moon hid its face, he tore Osiris into pieces and scattered them across the land and waters of the Nile. The earth screamed, the sky trembled, and the river ran red with the blood of a god. Isis wandered the sands, gathering the broken fragments of her beloved, weaving them together with tears and incantations. Yet life would not return. So she lifted a cry into the heavens. A cry so fierce it cut through the silence of creation itself. And the heavens answered. From that cry was born a child. Not of flesh, but of breath and vengeance, of light spark and sorrow's flame. Horus, the falcon of the skies, son of grief, bearer of hope. His cry was his mother's, carried into eternity. His destiny, to halt the storm. The prophets whispered, the day will come when the world stands still, between light and shadow. Then shall the falcon rise, bearing on his wings both despair and hope. And so began the tale, where love and death, light and darkness, were woven into a knot that only one could untie. For where Isis's tear fell, the first lotus grew, a sign that even in the desert sands, eternity can bloom. In the first silence of creation, before the lotus of time had unfurled, before the stars dared speak in the waters of the unmade, an ancient sky loomed over Egypt, clear as the bone of a god, dark as the eyes of a jackal. And there, in the realm between wind and dust, a child was born. Not of the womb, but of a prayer. Not of flesh, but of fire. Horus. His mother was Isis, wandering the endless sands in search of her beloved Osiris, torn limb from limb by his brother Set. Her tears, falling upon the barren earth, gave rise to springs. But when she knew no prayer could restore his life, she cried out to the heavens. And in that cry, magic awoke. From her anguish, Horus came forth, a falcon-headed god, son of light, born also of vengeance. Long before he ever raised a blade, prophecy had already named him. The words of Anubis, carved in hidden caves at dawn, whispered, when the shadow slays the star, a warrior shall rise in lightning, and there shall begin a war, where blood is the key to truth. And even as the words lingered, the shadow had already stretched. For in the ruins of heaven, Set, the god of darkness, the murderer of Osiris, the sovereign of storm and chaos, had forged his throne. His eyes, like the ashes of a dead sun, blazed with hatred. Under his rule, every night grew longer, heavier, endless. The people trembled, hiding in the sands. Sorcerers laid their tongues upon the altar, choosing silence rather than risk his wrath. Yet in a temple hidden among the dunes, a boy was being shaped. Horus, still young, but with a heart older than the worlds themselves. The ancient spirits of the desert taught him, singing in the tongue of the dead, teaching him to wield not a sword of iron, but of destiny, a blade that did not cut flesh, but fate. And always, in his dreams, he saw the same vision, a lotus breaking through a skull. Then came the night the heavens split open with a meteor, and the sands changed their song. From the horizon walked a girl, ice twilight dark, voice alive with both fire and water. Her name was Nehema. In her hands she bore a fragment of Osiris's heart, stolen from the realm of the dead. Her breath was the whisper of Isis herself. And she swore to stand beside Horus, though in her own soul, a prophecy slept. "Your strength is not in the sword," she told him, "but in a heart unafraid of pain." And when Horus took the fragment into his hand, the sky boiled with blood. The sky bent low, like the weary back of an ancient god. The sands whirled in frenzied circles, and it seemed the desert itself was weeping. Winds howled with the voices of the dead, those slain by Set. And every grain of sand was a cry from a forgotten soul. At the edge of the great void stood Horus, a realm where night brushed against day, and even the stars dared not gaze. In his hand throbbed a fragment of Osiris's heart. Not a stone, but a living light, its pulse carrying the blood of memory. Each touch revealed more than vision. Pain. Remembrance. Truth. A father slain in the sands. A mother whose tears became springs. And his own blood burning with the sorrow of the world. "Are you ready?" asked Nehema, her voice trembling with unease, yet steady as the earth. "I have no choice," Horus answered. And the sky split like a veil. The storm closed around him, its jaws snapping shut like a serpent's maw. But even within its fury, Horus did not lose himself. Not when the stranger took shape before him, wearing the faces of Osiris, of Isis, and even of Horus himself, black wings tearing across the heavens. This was no battle against a foe. It was war with the shadow of his own heart. "You are me," whispered the stranger. "I do not fear you," Horus replied, "for within me still lives love." And he raised the fragment. It flared with the light of all his ancestors. The stranger burned. The storm collapsed, but not without pain. Horus fell to his knees, for the light had not only shattered the darkness, it had bared his fear, and he had embraced it. When he rose again, Horus was no longer the boy who had entered the storm. He had not merely endured the path of the storm. He had been reborn. In agony, but in truth. The Temple of Illusions was not a place of stone, but a dream woven from loss. It could not be seen by mortal eyes, for eyes perceive only the surface. This temple was born from within, and before Horus it revealed itself, like a memory that refuses to be buried. Columns of living stone rose around him, their cracks weeping with ancient stories. Mosaics shifted and breathed, showing not what had been, but what was yet to come. Horus stepped into the shadows, knowing here strength was nothing. Here only the heart could decide. "Here begins the truth," whispered Nehema, her voice trembling with both warning and faith. "Not every heart returns from it." And then she left him. At the threshold, in the temple's dark, he saw a figure that struck deeper than a blade. Osiris. Not the crowned king of legend, but the young fire before the crown. The wild spirit not yet broken by death. "I am the shadow of your blood." The vision spoke. "Tell me, do you truly seek truth? Or are you only trying to soothe the wound you carry?" Horus faltered. His voice shook as he answered, "I seek justice, though I do not yet know what justice truly means." And upon the open palm of Osiris appeared two paths, a black feather of Mot, and a lightning-forged blade. Faith or strength. Horus reached for the blade, but his heart reached for the feather. And so he took both. The world trembled, for in that choice, Horus ceased to be a son bound by vengeance. He became one who was ready to bear the weight of consequence. The temple dissolved, but Horus did not emerge empty-handed. In his grasp burned a new sign, a lotus entwined with lightning, tenderness and fire. truth and pain. The union of shadow and dawn. Nehema awaited him. But her eyes carried a shadow now. As if part of her soul had remained within the temple's walls. What did you find? She asked softly. That pain is not the end. Horus answered. It is the path. And so he walked onward. No longer as a warrior, but as one who had accepted himself. The wind fell silent over the world. And the sand no longer sang. All life froze. As if the earth itself had held its breath. Horus stood before the gates of despair. Ancient doors carved of black obsidian. Every inch soaked with the cries of souls. Broken in war. Beyond those gates waited Set. Not merely as the god of storms, but as the embodiment of fear, madness, and ruin. His throne was not raised in a hall. It was woven from the shattered remains of worlds. His palace bore no roof. For he believed even the heavens must bow before him. When Horus crossed the threshold, darkness did not merely surround him. It spoke. You do not walk in truth. Falcon-born. The voice thundered. Deep as a chasm, slow as poison. You walk toward death. Are you ready to destroy me? And in doing so, become what you hate? The shadow stirred. And from it stepped Set. The body of a warrior. The head of a beast no earth had known. Eyes of lightning. Hands of storm. And worst of all, a smile, calm, certain. As though he had known the ending. Before the tale began. I killed your father not from anger. Set declared. But to halt the world. For a world without chaos is a corpse with a smile. Your father sought order. And order is a cage. I freed creation. You murdered love, Horus answered. His voice steady as the dawn. And I will give it back its voice. And then the world screamed. Horus's sword ignited. Not with steel, but with light. Its blade struck not flesh, but spirit. They clashed. Not body against body, but force against force. Faith against fury. Every strike birthed storms. Every movement tore the fabric of the sky. They battled in air, in sand, in thought. Set hurled visions. Isis, dying once more. Nehema, crumbling into dust. Horus himself, blood-stained hands. A throne beneath his feet. See who you will become if you defeat me. Set roared. You will become me. I will become nothing, Horus replied. For I am the son of the dawn. And as Set lifted his final blow, Horus let fall his sword. He knelt. You will not have my fury. For true victory is not won in blood. The blade dissolved. And in that moment, when Horus chose not power, but faith, Set screamed. For his strength was forged in hatred. And before forgiveness, it crumbled. From his chest burst black fire. It did not slay Set, but it burned away the shadow within him. And there he stood. No longer a god, but a creature. Lonely. Broken. Throneless. What have you done? He whispered. I have shown you, Horus answered, that the world is not only struggle. It is also choice. Then Nehema appeared. Her eyes bright with tears. But those tears were not weakness. They were the dawn of a beginning. A silence descended. The kind that follows the last breath of a dying god. The winds ceased. The stars flickered, as though doubting what they had witnessed. The echoes of Horus and Set's battle rolled through the heavens, and the very fabric of existence shuddered. Yet she did not die. For the first time in eons, She wept, and the tear of the world fell. It was not water. It was a crystal drawn from the heart of time, woven from every pain, every hope, every love that had ever been. It fell from the sky like a slow meteor, searing the air, burning away doubt. Where it touched the ground, lotuses blossomed, flowers of hope. Yet even the blossoms trembled, for the tear carried a question. What comes next? Horus stood upon the battlefield, unmoving, a statue of will and silence. There was no sword, no enemy, no throne, only the remnants of shattered darkness, and the seal pulsing in his palm. A lotus laced with lightning, now flickering red. This is a sign, Nehema said, approaching. Her shadow no longer wavered. Her hair streamed like fire in the still air. The world has recognized your choice. But every choice demands a price. I never sought a throne, Horus answered softly. I sought the truth. Then accept it. The sky split. Two figures descended from the heavens. Mot, goddess of balance. Are, the blazing lord of the sun. Their presence was not light, but awakening itself. As if the universe had stirred from an endless sleep. Mot bore the golden scales. That way the hearts of souls. Are held a scepter wrapped in the flame of reason. Horus, son of Isis, said Mot, your soul is heavier than the feather. Not for sin, but for choice. You did not kill. And in that restraint, you altered the course of the stars. But set lives, Horus whispered. His darkness has not vanished. Darkness never vanishes, Ra replied. It learns. But you have given it a name. And with a name comes a boundary. Nehema clasped Horus' hand. Her voice trembled, yet carried hope. What comes next? Ra stepped forward. He touched the seal. It dissolved, absorbing into itself. Horus' pain, his losses. His love, his choice. This seal shall mark the dawn of a new world, Ra declared. But you will not remain as a god. You will become the wind. The voice of change. When hearts seek truth, they will whisper your name. And you will come. Not in flesh, but in spirit. And in that moment, Horus did not fade. He dissolved into the light, like the morning star, leaving only warmth upon the skin. Nehema stood, alone yet not alone. For within her stirred a spark. A new life. A new promise. The tear of the world sank into the sand and bloomed into a lotus that would never wither. Thus ended the battle. And thus began the legend. In the days when the wind still carried echoes of the great battle, Isis sat by the waters of the Nile. She did not weep, for her tears had already birthed rivers. Her cry had awakened a god. Her pain had brought forth Horus. Yet in her heart there was a silence, heavier than eternity itself. She knew her son had not died. He had become other. He had become the echo of the world, no longer bound to flesh. Horus had become the breath of the wind, the song within the silence. But a mother's heart longs not for whispers, but for the embrace that will never return. That night, men and women came to Isis. Those who had seen the tear of the world. Those whose souls Horus had stirred awake. They carried lotuses born from the tear, their petals glowing like stars on the earth. Goddess, they pleaded, sing to us, for we are lost. Then Isis lifted her hands to the heavens, and her voice became a river, flowing through the night. It was not a hymn of victory, but of remembrance. O you who rose from the cry and became silence. O you who bore both shadow and light upon your wings, return not to the body, but to the heart. For love is mightier than the sword. For the world endures not by throne, but by sacrifice. At her song, the wind rose. It swept across the valley, brushing the faces of the gathered. And they knew it was Horus, listening to the hymn of his mother. Nehema stood among them, her hand resting on her belly. She spoke no words, yet her eyes glowed with light. For she knew within her grew a child, carrying the breath of Horus. Not a god, not a king, but a living soul, destined to be the bridge between heaven and earth. But deep in the sands, within the shadow of the broken throne, a figure stirred. Seth sat among the ruins, his eyes no longer burning. For the first time, he felt the weight of solitude. The wind that bears your name, he whispered, may yet become a storm. And when it does, I will return. Isis felt it, and her voice grew stronger, as though she might shield the world with her song. Yet even the holiest hymn cannot bind the shadow forever. For in every breath of silence, Horus lived on, not as a warrior with a sword, but as a choice, as a memory, as a force that would one day lead the world forward. Years passed. The Nile swelled and receded. The desert sang through shifting dunes, and though the sky remained unchanged, it seemed reborn. The people remembered the tear of the world, and in every temple now stood its sign, a lotus blooming beneath lightning. But Horus himself no longer walked among mortals. He was felt instead, in every breath of air, in every whisper of sand. Invisible, yet ever present. He had become the wind that stirred hearts toward remembrance. Then came a night without stars. Isis sat beside Nehema, whose cry split the silence, like a spear thrust into the heart of darkness. Hold on, Isis whispered. You carry within you what even Seth fears. And in that hour, the child was born, in a blaze of lightning that tore the night apart. The wind rose, vast as falcon's wings, and howled across the desert. It was Horus, not in flesh, but in essence. He had come to greet his heir. The newborn's eyes shone with the gold of heaven, and his hair was dark as the depths of the Nile. In his tiny hands pulsed a power no mind could comprehend. Nehema wept, not from pain, but from the revelation that more than a son had been born. A new path had entered the world. What shall we name him? She asked, her breath trembling. Isis looked upon the child and answered, Acre, for he will be the one to open the gates of dawn. But in that same night, a storm rose over the desert. In the ruins of his shattered throne, Seth lifted his head. He felt it. A new light had been born, the echo of Horus himself. So the game is not yet over, he whispered. If Horus became the wind, then I will become the storm, and the child will feel my hand. The years of Acre's childhood passed swiftly. When he touched the sand, flowers bloomed. When he laughed, a falcon soared above the desert. But when he cried, the very sky darkened. For in his tears lived the shadow of Horus and Seth's eternal struggle. Isis taught him the ancient songs. Nehema taught him love. And the wind itself, Horus, taught him courage. Yet each night, Acre dreamed of a figure with eyes like lightning, and the voice always called, Acre, son of the world, come to me. I will teach you the truth. And every morning, The boy awoke trembling, for he knew the voice of darkness was not a stranger, but an echo of his own fate. When Acre reached 12 years, night fell upon the earth like a shroud of black, pierced only by the faint, distant stars. He lay by the river, lulled by the songs of Isis. Yet his soul wandered to a place even her hymn could not reach. In his dream, he stood in a desert without boundaries. No sky, no earth, only endless sand, black as ash, silent as the grave of gods. And there, in the hollow of that deathly silence, stood Set. His body seemed worn, yet his eyes burned brighter than on the day of his war with Horus. "You have come." Seth's voice rolled like thunder, ancient and unyielding. "You do not fear me, for you know this truth. You are a part of me." Acre's heart pounded, yet he did not retreat. "I am a son of light. You will not break me." Set laughed, not with cruelty, but with the bitterness of one who holds a truth others dare not face. "Light and darkness are not enemies, boy. They are brothers. Without me, your father would never have risen. Without chaos, there is no order. You were born to carry both." Acre lowered his gaze and saw the sand beneath his feet ignite. From the flames rose a blade, a sword like the one Horus once bore. But this one was black as the night sky. "Take it," Set urged. "Take it, and I will teach you to rule the world." For the world does not heed prayers. The world listens only to strength. Acre's hand trembled as it reached toward the sword. But then, through the choking silence, another voice came, soft as the breath of wind. "Son, remember who you are." It was Horus. Not in body, but in the whispering wind. Not in vision, but in the boy's very heart. Two forces converged within him: the cry of the storm and the whisper of the wind. His heart raced. His body shook. "You fear the choice," Set said, stepping closer. "But the time will come. You cannot be only light. If you try, you will vanish." Acre awoke with a scream. His palms were stained with blood, as though he had truly grasped the sword. Isis and Nehema rushed to him, but he could not explain. No words could hold the terror of that dream. That night, the wind howled across the desert, and Nehema felt it. Seth had stretched forth his hand again, and Isis knew a path awaited her son, more terrible than even the fate of Horus. For the darkness no longer came from beyond. It had taken root within Acre himself. The time came when Acre could no longer escape his shadow. Each night, his dreams grew darker. Set's voice thundered louder, while the whispers of Horus grew faint. No mortal I saw the battle tearing him apart, but the world felt it. The Nile overflowed out of season. The sun dimmed, and the sands sang songs so haunting that even jackals fled their echo. Then Ra descended from the heavens, and Mot came riding the winds. They placed Acre before the Cathedral of Shadows, a place where not life, but the very essence of a soul is weighed. The cathedral had no walls. It was a mirror of infinity. And in every reflection, Acre saw another version of himself. A warrior who saved the world. A tyrant who burned it in fire. "Son of Horus," Mot said, lifting the golden scales, "your judgment has come. Your heart will be weighed against the feather of truth. If heavier, you will walk the path of darkness. If lighter, you will walk the path of light." Acre nodded. His heart thundered like a storm trapped in a cave. He placed it on the scales. Not a body, but a blazing essence, ripped from his chest. And the scales trembled. At first the feather rose higher, but then froze. Acre's heart was neither light nor heavy. It wavered, suspended between two worlds. Ra bent forward, his eyes burning like the sun itself. You are balance. But balance is not peace. It is eternal struggle. And from the shadows, Set laughed. He stepped forward, not as enemy, but as part of the verdict. You see, he cried. He belongs to me and to you. There is no pure light in him. Mott leaned close, her gaze piercing Acre's soul. The choice is yours alone. We cannot decide for you. Will you follow the wind of your father? Or embrace the storm that calls your heart? Acre raised his head. In his eyes shone Ra, Set, Mott, and the thousand mirrors of himself. He knew. The word he spoke now would change the world. And he breathed. I will choose neither light nor darkness. I will choose both. For only then will the world be whole. The mirrors shattered, exploding into fragments of light. The scales dissolved into the air. Ra lifted his scepter. Mott stepped back, and Set fell silent. For the first time, looking at the boy with a shadow of respect. You have forged a path. That has never been before, Ra said. But for this path, there will be a price. Acre lowered his eyes. And he already knew. He would pay. When the judgment was over, the world was no longer the same. The sky split in two. One half blazing with gold, the other swirling with black storm clouds. And at the place where they met stood Acre, the child of Horus, the heir of the chosen one. The people gazed upon him with both hope and fear. To some, he was salvation. To others, a threat. For his eyes no longer carried light alone. They held shadow and the brilliance of the sun. Set stood apart, his voice rolling like a storm across the sands. He is mine as much as yours. He is proof that the world cannot be pure. Ra raised his scepter, his face fierce as the noonday sun. And that, he answered, is why he is stronger than all of us. For he has embraced what we have always fled from. Mott tilted her eternal scales, her whisper soft as dawn. Truth is no longer a feather. Truth is a heart, beating in both light and darkness. Then Acre lifted his hands, and the wind rose. It grew into a storm that bound the two halves of the sky together. Lightning split the darkness, and with every strike, lotuses bloomed, shining like stars upon the earth. I will not come with a throne, Acre declared, his voice echoing everywhere. I will not be king. I will be the dawn and the storm. For the world is not held by light alone, but also by struggle. And as long as you remember who you are, I will be with you. The people fell to their knees. Some wept. Some laughed. Some screamed in fear. For the first time, they understood. The world has no single ruler. The world has balance. Set looked upon Acre, and for the first time, he felt no hatred, only the shadow of a smile. You have done what even your father could not, he said. You have given me a place beside the light. And Ra bowed his head, for he too recognized victory is not found in destruction, but in acceptance. That day, a new sign appeared in the heavens. A falcon with two wings, one white, one black, and the world called it dawn and storm. Aker did not become a god in flesh. He became a legend, living on the wind. And when storms raged above the earth, the people knew it was Aker, reminding them of their choice. And when dawn broke upon the horizon, they felt hope, the touch of his presence. In the silence, Nehema looked to the heavens and whispered, "You are the son of Horus, but you are greater than him. For within you live love, and fear, and light, and darkness." Thus ended the myth of Horus, and so began the age of his heir, Aker, the child of the wind, who united sky and sand, light and shadow. For the world has never belonged to just one wing. Centuries flowed like the waters of the Nile, and the desert, with its golden shroud, covered the ruins of ancient temples. The throne of Set had long crumbled to dust, yet his shadow still drifted across the dunes. But from the tears of the world, lotuses continued to bloom, rising in places where life should have long since perished. And the people wove their petals into the hair of their children, so they would never forget. Balance is neither a gift nor a curse, but a path that must endure. The hymns of Isis became prayers at dawn, and every woman, lifting her hands to the rising sun, whispered the words that had once turned a cry into life. Ra no longer descended as a king. He remained an eternal witness. And in the heavens, the falcon with two wings became the sign of the new age. It was carved into the shields of warriors, painted on the walls of tombs, and forever known as the sign of Aker. When storms rose above the earth, the people believed Aker was fighting in the sky, reminding them that light and darkness always walked together. And when dawn came after the storm, they knew he had given hope again. The old priests told a legend that whoever was lost in the desert would hear a voice in the wind, and that voice would say, "Do not fear your shadow, for only the one who has accepted the darkness can find the true light." And where the first ray of the sun touched the sand, the women still sang the song of Nehema. Her words whispered through the centuries. Horus gave us the wind, Aker gave us the storm, and we give the world love, the force that holds the wings of both. So the myth did not fade. It lived, not in stone, not in blood, but in the hearts of those who lifted their eyes to the sky and saw there not only the light, but also the shadow. For only from both is the dawn born. And when the last storm rises, when the world itself begins to fade, the falcon with two wings will return, and he will remind us once more that even in despair, there is hope. Thus ended the song. But the myth never